Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Big Lee's World Podcast. It is I, your host, Big Lee, coming to you once again from the Boom Boom Room right here in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have Mr. Eric Voorhees, real name, not a work, vocalist of the band Flight Jacket. Eric, how you doing today?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. It's great to be on. I'm honored to be here, and I'm excited to talk local punk rock scene and many other things and many other topics.
Hey, yeah, I'm excited. I remember when I first met you and they said that your last name was Voorhees. I was like, wait, hold on. Is this like a gimmick thing?
Yeah, Friday the 13th obviously came out after I was born, but yeah, it's been a fun whirlwind of a name for my entire life. You know, you always get that first day of school type deal when you're sitting in class and the teacher says Eric, and then they kind of look up at you and they're like, is that? And it's, always been funny. It's always been fun. You know, not everybody catches the joke, but man, those who do, they really truly enjoy it.
So I guess the first question right out of the gate is, are you a Friday the 13th fan? Are you a horror fan?
Yeah. Huge horror fan. That's about all I watched growing up. And for sure, into my adult life, just I would always kind of watch that stuff. I do not think that Friday the 13th to me personally is my favorite of any of the horror franchises. I am partial to Halloween, and I always have been. I was a huge Michael Myers fan, and I would go as Michael Myers for Halloween for years on end. And now that's not to say I don't have a Jason Voorhees mask and all that stuff. And quite frankly, as time has gone on, I've really kind of liked the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Obviously we're just talking kind of 70s, 80s, horror icon franchises here. But the Nightmare on Elm Street series has kind of come along, and for me, man, it's fall, it's Halloween, it's October, and it's watching all those Halloween movies, start to finish, and that whole franchise. I mean, that's kind of been my favorite for sure.
Even Halloween 3.
What's kind of funny is I actually had a guitar not too long ago that had the three masks from Halloween 3 on it. I always kind of liked that movie. It's different. It was it was a creative shot in the dark, and as time has gone on, like many horror movies that are near and dear to me, they kind of become cult classics, and so, yeah, I even watch Halloween 3.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, as I gotten older, I'm starting to get more and more appreciation of like the classics, not just as like something as nostalgia, but like looking back into it. Cause like, I guess I'm also big on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, and also big on the Exorcist franchise. And, looking back at it, like I rewatched some of them, last year, and, I don't know if you watched it or not, but there's a third Exorcist.
Okay.
And to me, like, it is close up par to the original.
Sure. No, I have seen the original Exorcist. I have not seen any of the other ones. But looking into that Nightmare on Elm Street, I'll just tell you, like, I was born in 1985. So a lot of that stuff would have been before my time, in terms of when it came out. But, looking at, Wes Craven as the creator of that or whatever, I truly, one thing that I look back on in my childhood was going to see Scream here at the Malco Theater in Sykeston, like opening night. I mean, and you want to talk about, while the Halloween franchise is near and dear to my heart for sure, there are a few things that are better than rewatching the original Scream, and it's the John Cena of scary movies. Sometimes, some people really love it, some people do not love it, and but man, you can't turn away from it, and that was kind of always my thing with that movie. And I enjoyed the nostalgia of it, of just, I was there watching it opening weekend, and that can never really be taken away. And I've watched all of them since. They've gotten progressively worse, as most franchises, seemingly do. But this latest one that came out was a really cool bow on the franchise, I thought.
So I will be 100% honest with you. I am not a big fan of the Scream movies.
Oh yeah.
I saw the first one and the third one when they came out, and it just I'm what we call a gore whore. Like the
Okay.
more blood, the violence. Anybody that's listened before knows I'm big with the death matches and stuff like that. So like
Sure.
I love the blood and the guts, and it just wasn't there for me. And I get it's more of a psychological thing, but when I
Yep.
look at horror like that, like I love like Texas Chainsaw and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that. But that what you said, I had a point I was going to make, but then another point to it, kind of like split brain here. But did you see the news that came out this week on Scream?
I did not.
So, how do you say it? Is it Nev Campbell
Yep.
has came out and said that she will not be a part of? Is it? I guess it's Scream 6.
Yeah, I think it is Scream. Yeah, Scream 5 or Scream 6, one of the two. I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly.
she is not going to be a part of it because she feels like I don't remember the exact quote, but to paraphrase it, that she provides more to the franchise than what they're willing to give her to do it.
Well, that's tough because I mean she's the face of it, other than the ghost face killer, the mask.
Exactly.
I mean, she's definitely the face of the franchise. So that'll be tough for them to make a movie and figure out a way to go about it moving forward, in my opinion.
Well, I think at this point, if you don't have her in it, do you make another sequel or do you just scrap it and make it a remake?
I think I think that's the direction you go. I think you just, I mean, and quite frankly, I mean, you're at what, 22 and some change. So I mean, 27 years maybe it's been since the original launched. I mean, I think that you're well in line with what they did with Nightmare on Elm Street, with essentially a remake, and the same way with Texas Chainsaw and Friday the 13th. I mean, all of those received remakes within that time frame. So I don't see why that would not be something that they would consider for sure. I mean, if you can't get Nev Campbell back, to me, the story can't continue. I would
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, there's always the risk with it. Like, to me, I feel like the Friday the 13th remake was atrocious.
Yeah.
I think that the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, while it's no knock down the wall classic, I don't think it gets the love that it deserves.
Sure.
And not necessarily the is it 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw, but the ones that came after that I thought were really good.
Yeah.
And I remember
in the Halloween, the Rob Zombie one, it is what it is. With that being my favorite franchise, I'm pretty, I don't know if passionate's the right word, but it just, the newer Halloweens never set well with me. And of course, this is where you and I are going to differ. I can already tell, but I'm more in that psychological mindset. Like, for instance, if you look in like the original Halloween, there was no blood. There was maybe, like, he maybe killed maybe 3 people in the whole movie. It was just that psychological aspect of a dude that could just take over a night and put fear into people. It didn't necessarily have to be killing 20 people and all this stuff. And then when you've got, this latest film that came out last year, Halloween Kills, and, the big controversial firefighter scene where he's presumably 75 years old and like killing 25 firefighters in just this massive scene. Like, to me, that was not, that they had lost what Halloween was about in that, to me, at that point. It was more about the psychological aspect of a guy putting a mask on, going around and just essentially causing terror on Halloween night to kids and teenagers. Whereas then it became how many people we can kill. And to me, that was not, I mean, it's essentially like the Rambo series where you've got like the first blood is, this guy that's, coming back from Vietnam and all of this stuff. And he's got, all of these issues and, he's kind of a vagrant in the town and all that stuff. And then by Rambo 3, he's essentially decimating an entire Russian army by himself. Like, that's, that becomes too much, in my opinion. It becomes, how many times can Mick Foley fall off the cell before you say, I don't want to see it anymore,
Exactly. No, I agree. Like I said, I'm a big Rob Zombie fan.
Sure.
Like I said, I love the blood and the guts of the first one. The second one was a little, it was a little iffy. I enjoyed the remakes as far as like the 2018, 2019 one and the one that just came out last year. And I'm sure I'll enjoy the final of the trilogy that comes out, I think, this year. But like I said earlier,
Halloween Ends, I believe, is the name of it.
Okay. But it's like, for me, like I said, like, I love the blood and the guts. And then, but I do enjoy some psychological, psychological of the horror. Another big franchise of mine that I like is I enjoyed the Candyman movies.
Sure. I might have watched the first one, but that might be it on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably recommend 1, 3, and 2, and then they had that remake that came out this year, or not
Yeah.
this year, last year, and a lot of people were. So this kind of falls in. I guess the best way to say it, this kind of falls into that deal with like Nev Campbell, like
Yeah.
Tony Todd carried the franchise of Candyman, and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when you get to this spinoff of what they did with this last Candyman movie, and you have very minimum of Tony Todd. I don't want to put any spoilers out there to it, but there's very minimum Tony Todd in this movie.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
I think a lot of people, were kind of brought back by that, and they're like, no, well, let's not do this again.
Sure. Sure. A lot of, speaking of Candyman, because Candyman, I mean, for what it is, it's not going to be on the marquee like a Friday the 13th would. And it just kind of reminds me, like, for the most part of my movie watching, I always preferred like the B-rated horror movies that never got the big releases. And I worked at, video stores here in Sykeston for a long time. I worked at TNT Video back in the late 90s. And then I worked at Movie Gallery for, a long time. Mm-hmm. And, just getting all of those old, particularly 80, you're speaking of like, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, the Toolbox Murders, the Funhouse, just all of these movies that are just kind of offbeat, mm-hmm. I always really, really enjoyed those, the Rob Zombie House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, all those, those did get theatrical releases. To me, they're still in that mold, right. Of that kind of a B-rated type horror movie. And I absolutely love those, I just, 2001 Maniacs with Robert Englund. I mean, that was just kind of a classic to me, just.
Oh yeah, most definitely
B-rated horror movie. And I absolutely love that. And, so, near and dear to my heart, that's kind of how, where I've kind of gone with that stuff.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to bring up is you talked about Rob Zombie and, the House of Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. What was your thoughts on the Lords of Salem?
That's one I haven't watched because I have been told not to. And that's not a good reason to not watch it, but that's just, I haven't really sat down and gone through that one yet. And so that's on me. I do need to watch that one.
I really enjoyed it. It's a little different. And I was just like, I drove all the way to Nashville to go see it because it was the only spot that was around here showing it in theater.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like, well, okay, I guess we're going to make us trip for it. But speaking of which, I want to get into a little controversy here with you.
Okay.
If you want to get your hands dirty here. Now, anybody knows like I grew up down south in the mean streets of Gideon. Nice. And let's see here. The little Zoom thing here is wanting to give me a headache here, so I'm trying to work this in here. But so for me growing up, like Sykeston and Poplar Bluff were one of the biggest cities that we would go to at the time just to do things, just because was kind of close to what it is.
Sure.
And from there, it's like, okay, what was your thought? So like we went to the Malco Trail for years, things of that nature. Yeah. And with that, what is your thoughts of when they closed the Malco Trio and they built this new theater out by Walmart?
Well, I personally just enjoyed it. I mean, it needed an update. I mean, everything can be nostalgic. It's, that movie theater is, like we just talked about, I mean, that's where I saw, the Blair Witch Project on opening night. That's where I saw Scream opening weekend, as a kid and that type of stuff. Freddy versus Jason, for how bad that was, whatever. But I saw it there, on opening night. And so you do miss that type of stuff. I mean, I even we had, the mall as a kid, they had a theater there. Mm-hmm. And, then it burned down and they never replaced it. But, I even went there a couple of times. But I think, it was time to, either completely renovate that, which typically that's just not feasible. And so for them to put that new theater out there, I mean, it is really nice for us to be able to go and have that seemingly big city movie experience literally just 5 minutes away. And so yeah, I'm all for that theater. I truly enjoy it. I mean, it was a complete shock to me that they had put it in there, and I'm excited. We go there a lot just to not have to take that drive to Cape to get into the a big theater experience like that.
So with me, like, I got so used to the what do you call it, like the experience with like Cape and stuff like that. It's like when I went down there, like, it's the small things you get used to. And it's just like it's the best way to explain. Like, I miss like being able to go in and just have my tickets online.
Sure.
And it's just, to me, I'm just like, come on now, like, I want to be able to go online, get my tickets, have a seat, and go from there.
Gotcha. Yeah. We've just, like I said, it was long overdue to me for just the comfort of the new seating and all that stuff. And we appreciate it. And, it's kind of crazy because it just started when the pandemic hit, and then it was shut down. And so I'm thankful that it's been able to, continue on, just for the economic aspect of our town. That area over there behind Walmart is really, trying to grow with new restaurants and stuff like that. And the last thing we need is for a huge business like that to immediately go under before really it ever even had a chance to take off.
Yeah. So, and I agree. I think that I think it's good for Sykeston, but at the same time, I'm just like, hey, I don't know. I expected more out of it for the way that it was hyped up.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not as huge as you would imagine. It's not as big as Capes for sure, and they're not going to have like the bar with drinks and that type of stuff or whatever. But I'm telling you, for us, man, it's really, really a pleasant experience to be able to go there and watch a movie. And it's just, the big theater where you kind of got almost like an upper deck and just the new comfort chairs that, almost kind of rock back and forth and all that stuff. I mean, it's just, to me, it was really nice for us to be able to have that here for sure.
Yeah. And and that's the whole thing. And like, what I want to get into a little bit here is, like I said, that, growing up using that area of Sykeston and stuff like that, there was a time where it seemed like Sykeston was doing really good. They put the mall out there by the highway, things like that. And then it seemed like Sykeston was going on the downward slope, and now it seems to be going back up.
Yep.
And I think it's good. I think Sykes, I did 2 years living in Sykeston while I was working for a company there, and I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely recommend anybody checking it out there that can. But one thing that I missed, and which is kind of where we get to you at with this, is the local music scene. And like I said, when we started this out here, you are the vocalist of a band called Fly Jacket.
Yeah.
And kind of tell us about your band and kind of how you got started there.
So, I've been around the music scene for a really, really long time. Even back in high school, talking 2002, 2003, there used to be a place in Sykeston called the Manhattan Room, which was kind of across from Movie Time downtown. And there was a barbershop. Ralph's Barbershop was up on the main level, street level. And then, as you go in, it would go down into a basement, and there were bands that would play there. I went there as a high school kid, and there were two bands in particular that always stuck out, which were Squad Car and a band called IDC. And IDC had a couple of the guys that went to high school at Sykeston, and they were, older, Nathan Comer, and then, Gabe Marshall. And, I would see those guys around campus. Gabe was a drummer in the marching band. And so, as a freshman, you just kind of look up to him anyway. And, I was in the marching band as well. I played tuba. And so, I'd kind of been around the music scene, prior to that, but, kind of going to a punk rock show as a youngster for the first time. I remember my dad dropped me off, and you just go, and man, it was so cool. You go with your friends and all that stuff. And I just kind of wanted to do that so bad. And so I started a band. This would have been in roughly 2002 with a guy named Alex Roach, and a guy named Jason Hoyer, and we were called Assignment 3, and it was just the three of us. And we went to record downtown in Sykeston. There was a place called SEMO Music Center, and they would record you for little or nothing. It was a guy named Steve Clinton and a guy named Mike Okenhire, man, and they would record you. And so we recorded, and as we did, we ended up getting Nathan Comer, who was in that band IDC that we liked and had their music and stuff like that. He actually came in and joined in and kind of provided some solos, and we kind of changed the name of the band to Second Year. And so we ended up booking a show there at the Manhattan Room, and playing like a punk rock show. And I'll just never forget my dad for the first time. He gets in the middle and he thinks everybody's fighting. He'd never seen a mosh pit before. He's trying to break it up. It was just like this massive comical scene. Like if you could ever put that in a movie somewhere where the old man thinks that everyone's fighting, I mean, I think you'd be struck gold there. And so it was just a real cool experience. And my heart's kind of been in the punk rock scene for, forever. I will say that I took an extended break from playing original music to play covers, just because as I got into college, it was about, I did a lot of stuff that I really needed to just like make money and different things like that. And just the guys I hung out with, and we would play like pop punk covers, but there wasn't a lot of an original, element to it. We were in a band called Almost Always, and we played for 10 to 12 years in Cape, with a bunch of different incarnations. And we actually did release 2 short EPs of 5 to 6 songs each, but never anything like this current band. But for the current band that I'm in, again, we're called Flight Jacket. It's, 4 guys that basically have kind of a love of punk rock. We all are, have families, we all have kids. And, so we just kind of have created this, shtick of, dad punk. And that's just what it is, man. I mean, we write songs that are funny and tongue in cheek with, the lingo of what it is to be a dad. And, it's part of our social media presence. It's part of our live show. It's who we are, I mean, I'm 37, and there's not many times, I don't know how many times more that I've got to where I can, play shows and different things like that. And so, my thought process along with the other guys in the band was just, we're going to play the stuff that we like. We're going to do what we like, because if you don't have very many more chances to do things, you might as well do what it is that you like. And so that's kind of the genesis of this band. We started it in late 2020, late 2020 and into 2021, we started recording music, and then began a full-fledged EP last year, and we've played a couple shows, and here we are.
Nice.
Seem kind of long-winded. I'm sorry about that.
That's quite all right. No, that's what we got you here for. So, so I guess kind of the thing is like, were the other band members in Almost Always, or how did you get with them to get to do Flight Jacket?
Sure. So, Alex Mays is the guitar player. Him and I worked together, and he had been friends for a while and played back in high school with our drummer, Trey Sloan. And Trey and I had played in a band together too, just briefly about a decade ago. Johnny B is our bass player, and he was the second bass player in Almost Always. So him and I had played together before. So we had kind of a connection there. And so we just, kind of fate, fell upon us as we all kind of played different things. And, we got 2 guitar players, a drummer and a bass player. It's like, what are the chances of that, kind of deal. And so, we just kind of got together. We've got a practice area down here in Sykeston that just happens to be out of town, so we can crank it up and play. And like I said, initially Flight Jacket was going to be a punk rock cover band is what we initially were going to do. We would like learn 10 songs, and then, just kind of like we all stood around. We're like, man, does anybody want to play covers? And not one of us said yes. I mean, it was just like, let's just do our own stuff. Like, this isn't fun anymore playing cover songs. We want to be a part of, what we see going on in Cape, which is just, local punk rock bands kind of sticking together. 20 years ago, whenever I was, first involved in the punk rock scene and then in the cover band scene, it just seems like there was so much jealousy and bands didn't really respect each other. It was just kind of like clawing, trying to get to the top, and that just really wasn't my style. But seeing how all the bands work together these days and how bands are pulling for each other and just showing up at each other's shows, I mean, it became immediately, clear to me that it was something that I 100% wanted to be involved in. And, we all decided that we wanted to write music and record music. We have kids now. all four of us in the band do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of one of those things where we thought, we would like to be able to show our kids, hey, here's something that we do. Here's something that we have done. Like it or not, they probably don't, and that's fine. But I just wanted, where we all did, we wanted to be able to at least just pass something down to them. And if anybody else likes it along the way, then awesome. We want to play music for us first. And then, if anybody else likes it along the way, really cool. That's awesome.
So when you said that, it kind of made me think, how old are your kids?
3 and 1. So it is really, really peace and quiet around this house.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. So I was going to say, if they were like in the teenage years or something like that, it made me think of I remember seeing a meme a couple of years ago. It was basically, I guess it was from one of the Grammys, to where Tom, vocalist of Slayer, was walking the carpet with his kids, and he's there having a good time, and both of his teenage kids look so embarrassed, and it was like, no matter, even if your dad is a singer of Slayer, you still embarrass your kids.
Well, that's I'm 37, so I was 34. My birthday's in April, and so are both of my kids' birthdays are in April as well. It's kind of crazy, but one thing that I've learned about being a dad is they don't really care about anything other than you being a dad. I mean, they don't care about your job. They don't care about the stresses that you have. They don't care about the money you make. They don't care about the lifestyle that you have in terms of, you see celebrities that, do all of these different things. It's none of that. All they care about is they want you to be dad, and that's it. I mean, it doesn't matter how stressful or awesome your day was. They just want you to be dad. And so that has been kind of an eye-opening experience with dealing with stress or dealing with anything, mentally that you have going on, or, jobs and careers and all that type of stuff. They don't care.
Right. Awesome. So with that being said, so y'all get together, y'all decide y'all don't want to do covers. Y'all want to write your own music.
Yep.
When was the first show?
So my friend Jake Kaiser lives in Cape, and every summer he has what is called the Meat Slam, and it's at his property, which is it's directly between, the best way to describe it, it's on the north side of Cape. It's directly between the Humane Society and Pilot House. Okay. So every year he does this. It's called the Meat Slam. He provides all of the food. It's nothing but meat, and him and his roommates will cook it, and everybody kind of pays a little bit of money. And there's like a band there. He's got a swimming pool. They play all kinds of games. And then he'll take the money, a little bit of it, and for years has kind of given a little bit of it to as a music scholarship to someone at Southeast at Missouri State. And so my band, the cover band, almost always had played it for years. Well, we had kind of gone our separate ways, and this Flight Jacket had formed. And so last year was the first year that we played it. And so I just, through my contacts in the music scene, I talked to Alex Bettinger and Tim Godlove and those guys, Zach Smith from Isabella. I got them on board to play it. A couple other bands were going to play it, and ended up having some, conflicts. And so then, then it became, it just a big deal. Cyberstein was a band that, jumped on to play. And so it ended up being a pretty big, event. And so that ended up being our first show. Of course, every year it rains, and it only rained during our set this past year, which is just so apropos. Our first actual show would have been with Blind Velvet, which was in October, I believe. It was their release show was at the Rude Dog in Cape. Okay. And I had all three of those boys in class. You wanted me to show my age? I actually taught all three of those kids, and they're not kids anymore. They had played at the Meat Slam, and of course I've known them forever. It seems like, and so they asked us to open up for them, and so we played that. That was our first show at the Rude Dog. I believe it was in October of this past year, and so. We've played a couple shows since then. We played the Shipwright Showcase at the Blue Diamond, and then we played at the 50/50 Forum, which is the new forum in Bluff that you came to.
Yeah, most definitely. Where'd the name Flight Jacket come from?
So I knew this was going to come up, and this is going to be so funny. So I had just kind of like this obsession with, UFOs and aliens, and just kind of as a history guy, I taught history for a decade in various schools and different things like that. And so I kind of have that aesthetic of planes and bombers and UFOs and all that type of stuff. Well, as I read, I'm a huge Blink-182 fan. It's my favorite band of all time. Make fun if you need to, that's fine. But like, I'm a huge Tom DeLonge fan, and just really all of those guys. Well, obviously DeLonge is super into the UFO and all that type of stuff. And just by reading his books and his things like that, I come to find out about the crash, the UFO crash that happened like south of Cape in 1941, which was before Roswell. and there was a book that was called the Bombshell Before Roswell, and I bought the book and I read it, and the code name was MO41, and that was going to be our band name. We were going to be called MO41. In fact, when we did our first promo, that's what it was called, was MO41, which was Missouri 41. It was the code name of this UFO crash.
Okay.
Well, obviously there's another punk band, Sum 41, and everybody in the band ultimately agreed that it just essentially sounded too much. I mean, it was MO41, MO41, whatever you want to call it. It was the same number. So we decided that we were going to change. And we just all kind of threw out some names, and then just Flight Jacket happened to be one of them because, again, we were all looking at the aesthetics. We went through like code names of bombers, code names of different things. And so we just landed on Flight Jacket, and we've kind of, we started out with that, that aesthetic with the, the plane and the bomber and all that stuff. And that was kind of our first logo. And then we've kind of moved into a more of like the dad primary color, coloring blocks type deal or whatever. And so anyway, but the name has stuck, and I think it's a cool name. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something different, and it definitely, it gets people's attention. They're like, wait, what is this now?
Sure.
So now with that, how did you get with the Forum 50/50? Because I want to talk about this place here in a moment.
Sure. Zach Smith runs the sound there. He's friends with Evan, that I believe is a partner in that that venture. Zach is the guitar player for Isabella, and Zach is the guy that is our producer. He has produced our first single, She's Still Great, which we just got a notification today that it just went over 1,000 plays on Spotify. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
Congratulations.
That was released last year, and he produced that. And then he also produced our new upcoming EP, Dadvice. And the single that's out on that is called California Guy. He produced that as well. So I had known Zach for a long time, just because he's been in Isabella for a long time. And I'm just really good friends with those guys. And he helps run sound and that type of stuff. So, I mean, he just asked us to be on a bill.
Nice. Yeah. One of those things, like I said, going back to what I was talking about earlier with Sykeston and Poplar Bluff being like the go-to spots for a long time growing up. Like, I never got to make it to the well. I wanted to. Yeah. But the shows that I wanted to go see there, I either didn't find out about until it's too late, or I was already closed by the time that I knew I could get down there to go. So the idea of them having another venue there that's not the Black River Coliseum, which is like its own can of worms, because I feel like it's such a great venue that's being wasted.
Yep.
But I really like the idea of them having this venue here. And I remember the first time it even came across my feed, I forgot who was playing there. That was a band. I don't remember if someone else shared it or something was happening, and it just came across my feed. And I'm like, whoa, wait, what is this now? There's a venue in Bluff.
Yeah, I never really got to visit the well. It's crazy because there is such an untapped potential when you think about it. Like, I mean, both of those towns, Bluff and Sykeston, they're on two major interstates, I mean, and I think that's where the Forum is, Forum 50/50 is going to be drawing from, is that, they're looking to, book bands that are essentially on that in between, maybe they're coming from down south going to St. Louis, or St. Louis going down south, or whatever, and maybe need an extra stop here and there. And Cape Girardeau's just too far out of the way because they're on that side of the, the state. Mm-hmm. And so, that's kind of, in my opinion, that's kind of the draw that they have there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, it's a great setup. I'm a little too fat and out of shape to be climbing all those 50 steps to get up there some days, but that's its own story for another day. But like I said, I really like it. It sounds great there. It's a great production. The people that run it are really great. And I'd hope to see Poplar Bluff get out there and support it. And I'd definitely like to see them start bringing in a little bit more bigger bands to come in. And I feel like, they've got their group of bands that, have came in and started making a draw. And I think it's time to make that next step up, start getting a little bit bigger bands to come in. I know they booked a comedian coming in, I think next month.
Yeah. And
I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so we actually, this is not our next show. Obviously we've got our EP release coming up, but the following weekend, Friday, June 24th, there are two touring bands, Unwell and Sink In, from California, and our band Flight Jacket will be playing with them at the Forum. That's on Friday, June 24th. So they are definitely they're definitely trying to get, like I said, some bigger bands, because
Mhm.
those are some, legitimate real deal bands.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because like I said, I think it took me down there the first time I went was this band out of St. Louis called This Is Me Breathing. And it's definitely probably one of the more heavier bands they've had there. And,
Yeah.
and I think I think that, for the people that I talked to there, like in between sets, that they're all excited for it. It seems like whatever show, even that show I went to with y'all, like all the bands seem so different, but it all just
Yeah.
kind of meshed together.
I think that's the big key in the local music scene in general right now. I mean, Ebb and Flow had that big show this past Saturday. I went to, it was the free show outside,
Uh-huh.
that was put on by the Red Claw Promotions. And, you had Scatterguns, you had Guy Morgan, you had Community Sadness, you had PFR, and you had Isabella. Those are 5 bands that, and it's just kind of like with any type of, you know, entertainment thing, from people outside of the whole deal, they're going to say like, oh, those bands sound alike. But people that are in the know, those bands are completely different. Like all 5 of them are completely
Exactly.
different, And I just think that that's the biggest key is, the biggest key that I see these days are, bands are willing to play with other bands that sound absolutely nothing like them, and people are loving it. And that is something that 20 years ago to me would not have existed. And I think that's the biggest key that I've seen that will help this music scene continue to grow.
See, that's the next thing I want to get into is, we talked about Bluff. Hopefully, with y'all doing this, get something going back at Sykeston. I
Would
know
love
there's
that. Yeah, we on June 25th there is a I just heard that there is a skate competition at our skate park here in Sykes, and I think they're going to have some music, and there's
uh-huh.
going to be some vendors and a food truck and all that type of
It's like
stuff.
June
The
Kaboom, I
June
believe.
Kaboom, yeah. And we were asked to play it, and I would have loved to play it, but we do not have the ability to play on June 25th. Quite frankly, or we probably would have been playing the punk rock pig roast in with the Haddonfields up in St. Louis, because we were trying to get involved in that, but
Mm-hmm.
that date just doesn't work for us. Plus, us old men, man, we can't hardly do the 24th and then come right around and do the 25th right on the next day. It's tough.
Trust me, I understand that completely. I just found out about the June Kaboom because the promoter guy, let me pull up his name here because he sent me a message telling me about the event and asking if I would put it over for him. It's like most definitely, because I always want to support small local business in these events.
Sure.
His name is Michael. Is it Medor?
I believe so. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, but that sounds about right.
He's the one that sent me the message about it, and it's great to see stuff like that happening in Sykeston. But yeah, and I told him, unfortunately, like I'll definitely, I'll have you on here. You can talk about it, and I'll definitely help promote it for you. Unfortunately, I won't be there because 2 of my favorite bands, a band called Spite and the band we were talking about earlier, This Is Me Breathing, has a show up at Red Flag in St. Louis on June
Nice.
25th. So I will be up there for that.
Sure.
So like I said, hopefully though, with the June Kaboom, if you're in the area and you're free on the 25th that afternoon, make sure y'all listening to this go out, support this event, go out, skateboard. I'm sure it's a family friendly event.
Yeah, it's all ages. And yeah, get in. If you've got kids and stuff that skateboard, get involved. They do like a best trick and they've got all kinds of stuff. So yeah, absolutely get involved in that. All ages come out and watch it. They've got they've got venue. They've got food trucks, vendors, and it should be a pretty cool thing. I think they're going to have some live music and so on.
Awesome. Yeah. It'd be nice to be something a little different than the only live music is the rodeo. And Mr. C shut down from back in the day, but
yeah.
But what I was leading towards that is, like I said, I hope to see something exciting. But one of the things that, I know you probably it's probably a little bit more walking a tightrope with you in this than it is for me, because anyone knows me knows my filter is like non-existent. But I want to talk about the Cape music scene.
Sure.
So with that, I remember when I moved here the first time in like 2007, the music scene was still thriving. We had City of Roses, all these local bands, places, and it just seemed like over the year, it just progressively got smaller. They had Docksides going, which lasted, I don't know how long, not very long. And then Pitters came through. Pitters was great.
Yep.
Gets the Afro Man there, which was its own endeavor. But uh it was super fun, but it didn't last but a couple of years, then it was gone. And great places out there like the Blue Diamond are trying to get these bands back going again and kind of rebuilding the scene here. What's your views on the Cape scene? Like, what do you think? What do you think the issue is? What do you think it's going to take to get it back up to where it was or even bigger?
You know, it's almost like, and not to, and this is not even walking a line, but I will tell you, in terms of the original music scene, I don't know enough about it to tell you why it went away, why the City of Roses, which then became the River City Music Festival and all. Like, I don't know. I think that I'm not sure that the Cape music scene went away for certain brands of music and certain types of music, but the type of music that I like, it did go away. Like you said, these bars and businesses went under. I always joke around that, it was kind of like when we were all in high school and in the beginning of college, we all had money and no responsibilities, a little bit of money to kind of go to shows. And then everybody kind of had kids and got homes and you start your job and you don't really have very much money. And now all of a sudden we're all approaching 40 and we all kind of have, kids that can kind of take care of themselves, or you got babysitters and you got a little bit of money because you've been at your job for a while. Maybe that's everybody can come out again. I don't know if that's the case,
but it also goes back to what you just said. It's like, one day, okay, I need a couple days after that.
Yeah. And so, I'm not sure if you ever, if you're interested in Josh Tomlin, and, he's the lead singer of Scatterguns, and he has been, just very, very instrumental in helping me out. I mean, the two guys that have been by my side from the first second of this Flight Jacket, venture have been, Josh Tomlin and Zach Smith from Isabella. Those two guys, I talk to them almost daily, and I cannot thank each one of them enough or put them over enough with the advice that they've given me, when they could have both easily been like, figure it out on your own, and in the old days that kind of, could have been the case, but they have definitely not done that. Josh would be somebody that would be a very good guest for you to have on if you haven't, just to talk about promotion and things like that. And he would have a lot more insight as to why that happened.
I love Josh. I really do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I recently have, I haven't known him for 10 to 15 years. Like I've known, Party Nate, as he's known, but he's Nathan Comer to me, folks. I knew him before he was Party Nate, but Nate and Zach Smith, I've known these guys for a long time, and Josh is kind of a Johnny come lately in my life that I just didn't know. And man, he really has a pulse on the local music scene. He really has a pulse on that type of thing. He would be able to give you a better answer, because quite frankly, I really just don't know. I mean, other than people moving off and just, is it an odd age when you're in your mid 20s for punk rock scene, and when you're starting families, and a lot of people are getting new jobs? I just don't know. I don't know what it was that caused a lot of that to go away. Were there backstage politics between businesses and bars, the newspaper and all that? I mean, were there? I don't know. All I can say without a shadow of a doubt is that I'm glad it's coming back, because this is my scene. I love the scene, and I love going to shows like we went to last Saturday night. And I think it shows that when places like an Ebb and Flow take a chance on a punk rock show, and then you get the backing of like the Southeast Missouri and wrote a story about it, and just, I think it shows that market and this product, this brand of music, this culture of punk rock and skateboard, there is a market for it, and people do want to see it. They want to see it. And regardless of what style of punk rock you play, I think people do want to see it. And I think it is showing. You just look at the pictures and the press that this show got this past week. I mean, there's no denying. And again, a lot of that has to do with Tomlin's work and the Red Claw promotions. And, those guys, I mean, they work their butts off tirelessly promoting and getting people to see that there is more than just cover bands in Cape, man. I mean, Cape should have been and could have been Carbondale from 15 years ago. And it just wasn't. And for whatever reason, it wasn't. And, maybe this next go around, maybe it can and start to be that, because quite frankly, there are a lot of people that really want it to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, I look back to it, like you said, 5, 10, 15 years ago, I look at some of the bands that, came through, went about, like, especially me being more on the enjoying the heavier side. Like, I remember a band called Bleed the Divine, and that was to me just like top tier, like up by Chimera. So if y'all listening, remember Chimera from back in the day. But
I'm not sure I ever knew how to pronounce that until right in this moment of my life.
Really?
I always knew the band. I just would have never pronounced it that way, I don't guess.
But yeah, them, a new breed, which, a couple of their members now become the Void Within.
Okay. Yeah. I know a couple of those guys.
And to me, like I said, I love the Scatterguns. They're doing great things. And then, of course, to me, like the top tier echelon, greatest band to come from Cape Girardeau of all time, the Tone Deaf All Stars.
Yeah, and Ron is the drummer of PFR, which was the opening band of that show this past week. So I think a couple of those guys, I'm not sure they're all from Cape, but Ron is kind of around and always has been. And yeah, Tone Deaf is just a classic
Captain
iconic.
Ron, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's the drummer of this the new band PFR.
I've heard a lot of good things about them.
Yeah, they're actually going to be at that punk rock pit gross that I referenced on June 25th. They're going to be up there playing with the Haddonfields and all those bands, man. It's at the South Broadway Athletic Club, unless the venue's changed. That's where it was originally supposed to be, was the South Broadway Athletic Club, which is just south of the Arch there and
I hate
in the Soulard area. Yep. And I'll be remiss if I don't mention my buddies in Guy Morgan, man. They have been, and it's kind of funny. I was on Bandcamp today. Look at this. Guy Morgan has been, their first album came out 10 years ago, but
oh wow,
those two bands that I referenced back in the day, IDC and Squad Car, that I saw, in the Manhattan Center or the Manhattan Room, all those years ago. They formed a band in the mid 2000s called Rock Solid. Jesse Shivitz and Nathan Comer, and man, they were really, really awesome. And they kind of got some press and stuff at the time, and they released an album which is still on Bandcamp, and I absolutely love it. In fact, I listen to it all the time. And so it was really, really cool to see Nate continue on to play kind of that style that he likes. Nate's a huge 80s guy. I mean, he's influenced by CC DeVille and Poise. I mean, you can tell in his playing and just that punk and roll, as they call it, man. I absolutely love them. They're no disrespect to anybody. Nathan's been a friend of mine for over 20 years, but man, when that Guy Morgan fires up, man, I absolutely love seeing them. And Nathan actually is going to be playing in Noir Days, which is a band that will be instrumental in our upcoming show that we'll probably talk about here in a little bit.
Yeah, most definitely June 18th at the Blue Diamond. Was it Blue? I just know it as the pool hall downtown. Blue Diamond.
Yeah. Blue Diamond Sports Bar.
Okay, there we go. Like we'll get it figured out here in a minute. But no, on a side note, you mentioned the South Broadway Athletic Center. I absolutely despise that place.
Oh, really? I've only been there one time. I saw the Bruce Pritchard podcast live.
Okay, I remember that. Was that the one with Bischoff or Jarrett?
No, that was the second one. The original one I went to would have been in maybe 2016 or 2017. It was right before, I believe, a TLC pay-per-view. I think it was TLC. That was in St. Louis, and it was just him and Conrad, and that was it. And they just shared stories of like St. Louis Pass and things like that. Me and a couple of friends of mine, we had VIP tickets, and got the picture in the koozie and sat there and watched the show like everybody else did. It was on a Sunday.
Nice. I think I'm not a big side street parker. I hate parking on the street. Sure. So I think that's probably, it always puts me in a negative mood when I go up there and I have to deal with that. But one name that you keep mentioning here, I want to kind of get some info about and kind of put them, because they've been really instrumental in, kind of getting the scene back going here in Cape, is Red Claw Promotions.
Yeah. And they have just launched what is called Red Claw Records, REP Dadvice, which actually comes out the day before our show, the 17th. So you're really going to have to listen to that for probably 24 straight hours so that you know every word on the 18th. It's going to be released under the Red Claw Promotions brand. We are going to be the second release, Guy Morgan's album that just came out. They were the first ones, but we're going to be the second ones that's released under the Red Claw Promotions, which is, kind of, just something that is making things look a little bit more legitimate in the town, as opposed to, hi, I'm Eric Voorhees and I'm in this band and I'm going to send you 47,000 Facebook messages and invites and all that stuff. It's just really nice whenever you have, kind of a central authority figure. I mean, it's not really, we're not talking McMahon in 98 under the hood, but it certainly could be, because, Red Claw is always, mysterious. No one knows who it is. And the Red Claw Promotions and Records, no one knows who it is. Well, I won't spoil who it is and or who they are. Maybe there's more than one, and maybe it's a female. No one knows. But it's just it's really nice to have a kind of a centralized person, because shows in the infancy stage right now where we're at with the music scene in Cape is that you really need to take things with kid gloves. Like, you don't really want to book a huge show right after another huge show. Now, one would say, well, what the hell, Eric, you're playing 2 weeks after a show that just happened at Ebb and Flow. Well, keep in mind that actually was rained out. It was supposed to be taking place about a month ago.
Right.
So I think it's crucial that more bands get under this umbrella of the Red Claw Promotions and Red Claw Records, because what we need to see is more communication between bands. Like, hey, this band is playing this event, so it's probably not a good idea to book around that. It's a good idea to book down there, and these types of things. I mean, I think that's what we really need to see more of, and that's why we have kind of been all in with the Red Claw Promotions and Red Claw Records, because we want to fit in. We want to not cause a scene. We don't want to be disrespectful to the people that have been working to create a scene. We want to just be a cog in the wheel, and hopefully somebody kind of picks up our stuff. We don't have enough time, I can assure you, with the number of kids we have in our band between the 4 dads. We don't have time to mess things up. We just kind of want to fit in where, or get in where we fit in, as they say.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a great way to be. But you've talked about Red Claw Promotions and Red Claw Records. So, I mean, with that, I mean, like you said, their second release on their record label is going to be this flight jacket. I always get this confused. Is it an album? Do you call these albums EPs, LPs?
So this one's an EP. If it's over 30 minutes or it has 7 songs or more, it can be classified as an album. This one will have 6 songs on it, and it's just shy of 30 minutes, so it will be classified as an EP.
Okay, because I know people get really, like, coming from the hardcore scene, like, people get really up in arms about it. And I'm like, look, it's a record. It don't matter. Like,
Yep. It's EP is going to be 6 songs or 30 minutes or less. You can have 6 songs. If it's over 30 minutes, it'd be classified as an album. But if it's 6 songs or less and it's not 30 minutes, it'd be an EP. Or you can have 7 songs and it'd be 28 minutes and be classified as an album. It's all just lingo stuff, probably, that's outdated and needs to be updated. But yeah, I say album sometimes, I say EP sometimes, but yeah, it's an EP. Dadvice is the name of it.
I was going to get into that. So the EP is called Dadvice, coming out. I was going to say, by the time we're recording this, it'll come out next Friday?
Correct.
Which is the 17th, right?
Yep. It'll be on all streaming platforms. Anywhere where you get music, it'll be launched that day. And then it's funny because when we played at the Forum on April 2nd, we were like the only band that didn't have physical copies of any of our music, and people couldn't believe they were like, asking us and stuff like that. Well, then on the flip side, we couldn't believe that people were asking about CDs. And, I've got a friend that works at a CD shop in St. Louis. And, it's just the market is kind of coming around to that. It's almost like what happened 10 to 15 years ago with the nostalgia of like vinyls and records. Like that has evidently come back around. Trust me, to the shock of nobody more than me. I was like, you've got to be kidding. I haven't touched any of my CDs in forever. So moving back to Dadvice and our EP, we did go ahead and get a limited number of copies made. Those are in, and we have an album exclusive sticker that is on the inside of the deal. So you'll get a CD and you'll get an album exclusive sticker that you cannot get anywhere else. We're not going to sell them. They're only if you buy the physical copy of the album. It's got our name on it and the coloring blocks that's very reminiscent of the album cover. And you can get all of that for $5. So those will be available at the show on June 18th.
That is a steal, folks. Make sure you get out there to the show on June 18th. Make sure you pick up a physical copy of this. And I'm sure these guys, if you maybe tip them a couple extra bucks when you get it, you may even get them to sign it for you.
Yeah, we'll have a full line of merch this go around. We've got 4 different shirts. We've got stickers. We've got koozies. We've got like I said, we've got the album, and so we're gonna launch that merch stand. All of this stuff is brand new. We have not sold it anywhere yet, and it will all be available for the first time on the 18th.
So is that also the special design you sent me in the message? Will that be available then too?
Yes, that's going to be on the t-shirt, and that's going to be on the koozies.
Okay, it's a really great looking merch. You want to make sure, like I said, y'all are there on the 18th to pick it up. But like you said, Dadvice is the name of the EP coming out on the 17th. The lead single off on it is California Guy. Kind of talk to us about this song. Why, the meaning, why was it your choice for the lead off single for this EP, and how's the reception been to it?
So the reception has been great. The reason why it was chosen is because I was outvoted 3-1 by the band members. I had my mind on my eye on a few different ones. California Guy is a tongue-in-cheek song about a guy from Southeast Missouri that moves to California and undergoes a culture shock. And while the name of the song would lead you to believe that it's about a California guy, the tag in the song is that I'm not a California guy, because he quickly realizes once you get to the chorus and different things, he quickly realizes that, California is a little bit different than Southeast Missouri, and the things that they have out there is a little bit different than Southeast Missouri. And he's not going to quite fit in, and he's not going to quite look like some of these guys that he's seeing on the beach and different things like that. And so it's a tongue-in-cheek song. It's funny to me. I had this song written for easily 10 years, but just the words weren't right. Mm-hmm. And as the words started coming together, I mean, the guys really liked it. And it's got a super catchy, sing-along chorus. It's got a breakdown bridge, and not a breakdown like you're thinking, Big Lee. Now we're not going to start spinning them in the pit, but more of a melodic, breakdown. It's got a double timed, just drum and bass second verse. And so it just really kind of had everything that we look for in a pop punk song. And it really just kind of incorporated, all of those elements, and it sounded awesome. And Zach did an amazing job. And so as we kind of listened to him, we just kind of decided that. And, we decided to release that one. My wife, she drew the album cover for it as we had two screaming kids on the way to the zoo. She did it on Procreate in the car. And we submitted that. Gary Robert, who is a local artist in Cape, he designed that green and black that you see behind the California Guy. It also serves as the basis to the flyer on the show, and or for the show, the show flyer. And that's actually a painting that he did. It's an acrylic on canvas, and we purchased that to use. And we will actually be giving that away at the show. The actual physical canvas, we're actually giving that away at the show that he painted to anyone that shares the event on Facebook. So if you share the event on Facebook, you get you have a chance to win the painting. So I just wanted to kind of plug that. Gary Robert, he's been very helpful with us, and we really, really like his artwork.
But the key is, in order to win it, you have to be at the show.
Yeah, you got to be there to win it. So hopefully the people that shared the show will also be there. Getting back to California Guy, the reception has been great. Everybody that listens to it, the biggest thing that we get with the two songs that we've released so far is that this reminds me of like early Blink-182. This reminds me of like the pop punk that I listened to in high school. And I always say good. I want it to sound like 20 years ago, because quite frankly, as we talked about earlier, that's what I want it to sound like. I want it to sound like what I listened to and what I liked. Again, when you don't have too many chances in life left to swing, you need to take your best swings when you got them. And so for me, that becomes, I want to play this style of music because that's what I like to listen to. And so, that's really a compliment when people come up and tell us that, when, man, this sounds exactly like what we listened to in high school. You know what? Awesome. Because that's exactly what we were going for.
I remember at the Forum 50/50 show, which was the first time I'd really heard y'all, that I remember going up to Brandon Eldridge, who you need to make sure, shout out to Brandon. He does great photography work. Make sure you check out his page, his post, check out. He does a lot of great photography for shows, stuff like that. But I remember going to him and telling him, I was like, man, these guys really sound like Blink-182 to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that, to me, that's the ultimate compliment, because that's like my favorite band. That's the style of music I like to listen to. And so it only makes sense that that's the style of music that I would write, because that's just, you don't really want to write music that you don't like.
Exactly.
I'm not going to sit down and write a modern pop country song, because that's just not really my style. And I would not enjoy playing that every night. It's just, I just simply wouldn't enjoy playing it. And I think that's really what it boils down to is, when you're 37, Bigly, and you got 2 kids. You really need to take your leisure time serious.
Well, I'm 35, so I'm not far behind you there. And I agree 110% with what you're saying. You know, one of the biggest questions I get that from people that listen to the podcast are like, hey, you have all these friends in the music industry. Why don't you have somebody record you a podcast intro song? And I'm like, because I don't like listening to other people's podcast intros. Yeah. Literally, if let's turn on someone's podcast and they have an intro, first thing I do is fast forward past it.
Yep.
And I'm like, if I don't like to listen to it, I can't be the only one.
Sure.
So why get that and do that and make other people fast forward when it's like you said, it's like if it's not something that I like and it's in essence my product, then why would I go through and, you know, not keep it real to me?
Yep.
If that makes sense. Like you were saying.
100%. 100%.
Then, so it's safe to say that your biggest influence is Blink-182?
Yeah, you know, and I listened to a lot of just even before that, just you know, I was a huge Nirvana fan too. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, like I'm not very talented, no doubt singing wise, but even to a lesser extent, but like playing guitar. I mean, I loved listening to Metallica and like, you know, I loved Metallica. And then like, you know, growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, like those bands were just like off the charts. Like no beginning guitar player could play like CC DeVille from Poison. I mean, it's just not going to do it. You know, you're not going to play like Slash from Guns N' Roses, but you could play like Kurt Cobain, you know. And then, you know, as I got older, you know, and actually started playing guitar, it's like I can play all those Blink songs, you know, like they're not writing, you know, these insane things that kids can't play. They're writing things that the average teenager can play, you know. And
it's not Raining Blood by Slayer.
No, it's not. And I think that, you know, it's you know, as Tom DeLonge once said, you know, he considered Blink, you know, nursery rhymes on steroids, and it just nice. and that's what it is. You know, it's very catchy, it's very melodic, but it's so easy that a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old could pick up a guitar and do it. I mean, I think that's the one thing that I've learned just through my, you know, teaching and things like that, of being involved in public education and different things like that in my personal life and, you know, and in my career. The best way to draw interest into something is to do something that someone can replicate. If you do something, you know, if I teach a kid, I'm trying to teach a kid basketball, and the only thing that a guy is doing is just dunking, and the kid can't dunk, he's going to lose interest because he can't do that.
Right.
And so I think that the best way to draw people in is to allow them to replicate it. And, you know, Nirvana and Blink were about as, I mean, you know, for all of the controversy and whatever anyone thinks of those bands, the one thing you can't deny is that a 13-year-old can pick up a guitar and I can show them Smells Like Teen Spirit or Damn It, or, you know, all the small things. I mean, we can learn that today. You know, I can send you home with a song to play.
Nice. So with that, get a little controversy here. Do you think Courtney did it?
Oh, you know, it really just depends on which conspiracy documentary I have most recently watched.
I 110% think she did.
You know, I want to believe that. And sometimes I do, just because I don't want to, in my heart, think that Cobain wanted to leave us, you know, like all the kids, like all the people that adored him. It's like, you know, if you're just like, you know, he just said to hell with it and got, you know, then it's like, you know, he really didn't care about us.
And if you look at Courtney's track record after that, it's not, you know.
No, she sold his Jaguar, which sucks, and she sold his Mustang, and they actually just auctioned that off. And it, did you know this, Lee, that Kurt Cobain has the 2 most expensive guitars ever sold? He owns 1 and 2 on the rankings.
No, I did not know this.
The first is the acoustic guitar that he played at the MTV Unplugged.
Okay.
And the second is the Mustang they just sold like 2 weeks ago. It was at an auction, Julian's auction in London. It was the Lake Placid blue Fender Mustang that he used in the Smells Like Teen Spirit music video.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
I didn't know they were either for sale. So, I mean, that's,
you know, they both gone to auction within the last 2. The acoustic was 2 to 3 years ago. And then, like I said, the electric from the Smells Like Teen Spirit, it was like 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Was it through Courtney, or was it through this Courtney already sold to somebody and somebody else is doing this now?
I don't know that. I do not know that. What I do know is that it seemingly every time Courtney Love gets to the point where she needs money, you'll notice a new something of Fender, will release a Kurt Cobain 50th anniversary, blah, blah, blah. Not 50th anniversary for Fender, but 20th anniversary of this and this or whatever. And, like that's one of the reasons why I've not purchased the new Fender jack stand. I'm a guitar junkie. I mean, I get guitars all the time. I buy, sell, I paint, whatever. But one of the new Fender jack stands, I absolutely refuse to get it because I mean, they have just jacked the prices up. I know it's going to the Cobain estate, which is owned by her. And I also know that Kurt Cobain was not a guy that would be interested in inexpensive guitars. I mean, that's like, it goes against everything he stood for. Like he wanted just the dirt cheap guitars, break it, fix it, get it together for the next show or the next night.
Right.
This whole idea and the notion of a $1,400 guitar that a 13-year-old cannot afford would just be beyond his mind, So
yeah, he would
don't buy the new jack stand. Anybody that's listening that even has a remote idea of what I'm talking about, do not buy the new Fender jack stand.
It's all a cash grab. Don't support.
Absolutely. Those things were $600 at Collins 20 years ago. The original jag stands were like $600 at Collins in Sykeston.
Man, I miss Collins. Is it still is it still in business? No, it's not.
It's not. The American Ghost Project, they actually have rented that space now. That's where they're based out of.
I don't know what that is.
Look it up.
American Ghost Project.
Yep.
So the second thing of controversy I want to get into, and this is just something that came across my desk maybe just a couple of years ago. So I've heard a lot of people say this term elder pop punk. And that's what they classify bands like Blink-182, Green Day, Good Charlotte. And to me, it's like growing up, like I said, I'm 35.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever heard those bands called pop punk growing up.
Sure.
Like, I don't even feel like that's even like a term like until like the past few years ago. Because like when I think of pop punk, I think of bands like State Champ, Real Friends,
sure,
Captain Chunk or whatever it's called, like bands like that.
Yeah. So pop punk, to me, and I'm not the elder spokesman for this, and I'm not the end all be all, but pop punk to me, it almost incorporated like bands that signed to major labels. Like Green Day was a huge punk influence. They were a huge punk band in the early 90s, and then everybody hated them because they signed to a major label and they sold out and they became pop punk because they're not punk rock anymore. So they're still kind of playing a brand of punk rock, but they're pop music because they signed to a major label. Blink-182 the same way. I don't, their early stuff I think could be considered a punk rock, but they were definitely, pop punk, whenever they got major label. I mean, again, Tom DeLonge's idea of them having, nursery rhymes on steroids. I mean, I don't think that is pop punk to a T, Good Charlotte, all those bands, I think it became what it was like being radio friendly, I think was where the term pop punk really kind of, gained some steam and things like that. But these new bands that you're listening to and that you listed off, the State Champs and, bands like that, they absolutely are, they are the modern version of that. They are, how it's kind of, evolved into, and that's their style. And that's basically what, that style of music would have sounded like had those bands continued on. But, Blink evolves, all those bands evolve, and then they kind of pick up the pieces of what, those bands had kind of sounded like.
I can see that. I guess I think just for me, like my biggest thing is like, maybe it was because I wasn't too deeply into I'd listen to some of the Blink-182, Green Day, or not Green Day, Good Charlotte is still one of the best shows I've seen live.
Wow. I would have never imagined you saying that Good Charlotte would have been one of the best shows you've seen live. That's awesome.
Dude, I'm telling you, like, if you ever get a chance to see them, 10 out of 10 recommend.
Nice. Of all the pop punk bands I've seen, probably Newfound Glory and Blink have been the ones I've seen the most, and I've never seen Good Charlotte. So that's very interesting that you say that.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. It's like I just looked at with the term. I'd never really, got into, got really that remembering that because like I was so big into like new metal. And
Sure.
then by the time new metal started to go away, then deathcore and deathcore then led to hardcore, getting
Sure.
into it. And then it just came to like, okay, now what? Just an
Yep.
infusion of everything. And with an infusion of everything, like you said, this album, Dadvice. So y'all are really working the dad gimmick here. Why?
Yeah.
Why did
So
we go with Dadvice?
So our bass player Johnny B, he kind of came up with it. We were just coming up with different words that had the word dad in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sent it in every band I think has a group text message, surely. And so he just sent it one day as Dadvice, and I was like, that is, I mean, you just can't beat that. I mean, for what our shtick is, and the presence that we have on social media, and the things that we've said, the things that we put out there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
The last show that we played in Cape Girardeau, we had Scott's Turf, bags on the front of the stage. I mean, it's a shtick like you wouldn't believe. And when he said that Dadvice, just the gear started, turning in my head with the idea of the coloring blocks and the primary colors and things like that. I mean, it's just, it incorporates all of the aspects of what, being a dad is, and which is, what all four of us live 99.9% of our time, where, that 0.01, that's where we're actually able to get away and play a little music. And so when he said Dadvice, it was perfect. It could not have been a better name. So all credit goes to our bass player Johnny B on that one.
So I guess the other question I have for you is, we kind of talked before recording that, you're involved, as we call it in the wrestling business, your shoot job, you work in the school business.
Yeah.
Do kids know about this? Do they come up and are like, hey, I really enjoyed California Guy, or hey,
Sure. Not to me, because I'm in the administration, but our guitar player, Alex, he's a teacher. And they definitely do talk to him about it. I mean, we've had kids that will have flight jacket shirts on at school, so
that's awesome.
It's just kind of one of those things where you just really have to just kind of, you just navigate it. And one thing, and I will say this about our band is that nothing that we do, and nothing that our lyrics say or anything like that. I mean, we write these songs, and I do all the lyrics, but just, we don't try to do anything that could ever be construed as controversial or that kids couldn't listen to and things like that. I mean, like, our lyrics there's not that. I mean, there's no way that you could take anything that we say in our lyrics. I mean, they're positive messages. They're messages about nostalgia. They're stories that are created. They're not meant to be controversial, and they're not that. And that's the reason why. I mean, we all have jobs. We're all older. And in the old days, you might write something that would be funny and things like that. But, like I have a different perspective now in terms of writing lyrics, because I don't want my kids to hear things that would be construed as, and every band goes through this. I've even like big bands, you think of like, again, I always go back to like Blink, but like their early stuff, like there's no way they would have written that had they had kids and things like that, and I just think that you really have to be conscious of that. And that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to, give positive messages of nostalgia, and just funny stories that are tongue in cheek. And that's really where we try to keep our lyrics at.
I was going to say, I noticed there's no parental advisory on the album cover.
No, there wouldn't be. I would, it just, at this point, it's not anything I really need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm one of those people, like, I think just growing up in the 90s, and like how everything is, like just how iconic that symbol is. Like every episode that I do of the podcast, like it's got a parental advisor. There could literally be nothing bad on it, like
Right.
you said, or anything, but I still put it on there, one, just in case, it's 2022 and you never know who offends what. So this is like, hey, this is your warning. But also it's along the lines of like, I've just like, it symbol's just so iconic, and I'm like, hey, let's have it on there.
Sure.
But Dadvice, June 17th. The big thing that we're talking about tonight, June 18th at the Blue Diamond, the Flight Jacket Dadvice EP release show. What information? Can you give us a little bit more information about this?
Yeah, it is going to be, there are 4 bands. It is starting at 7:00. The bands that will be there are Noir Days. They are, and I'm not speaking for them, but this is just my opinion. I love those guys. They are awesome. They are, they're everything 80s new wave that you can imagine. If you've ever watched, like, I mean, just imagine the Fright Night soundtrack.
Mhm.
Okay. Like these dudes are amazing in how they have recreated this late 80s sound. I'm in awe every time I hear their album and their new music. They've just got a new single that came out called I Dream of Lisa. And I'm telling you, they're awesome. I had 3 older sisters growing up, and you want to talk about just in the 80s, buddy. You know, as a youngster, I was in the middle of it. And so it is such a nostalgic act for me. For them, that is their Blink 182. You know, when someone says, "Hey, you sound like the soundtrack to Fright Night," or whatever, you know, like that's such a compliment to them because that's what they're going for. And I love the fact that they are just going for that sound. And because to me, it's super nostalgic. They're awesome. We got Community Sadness. They're going to be playing there. They call themselves, you know, Cape Girardeau Sad Boys. They play a little bit of a post pop punk, you know,
Mhm.
sound. And again, these are all my opinions of what I would classify them as. They have an awesome vocalist who writes amazing lyrics and has incredible range. They have awesome musicians. I just saw them for the first time this past Saturday, but I've been listening to them for a lot longer. Um, I actually sent my wife a video of them, and I said, "Can you believe that this band is playing before us on June 18th? Because there is no reason why they should be playing before us. We should be playing before them." And then we have Blind Velvet. Like I said, those are the 3, you know, guys that are just, I mean, they call themselves the cheapest band in the land, but man, they may be the hardest working band in the local Southeast Missouri area. I mean, they play everywhere all the time. You know, you got Big Al, Evan, and the Fuzz, man, and the Fuzz also has a rapping career, which is great. You need to have him on sometime because he is a good cat to talk to. And he's just very calming, man. He's calming around my kids. I have him over about every Sunday. We have a tradition where we smoke pork steaks and drink a little Busch Light. So
Nice.
Fuzz is a good dude, man, and they all are, and they play a blues and roll would be
Mhm.
a kind of how I classify it. But man, they also are they can get in your face pretty quickly. We've played, you know, now that I think of it, it's kind of crazy. We played every show that Flight Jackets played. Blind Velvet's been on the bill, so it only makes sense that they were there. They were there, you know. We were there for their album release. They're going to be here for our EP release, but they're really good guys, man. I'm telling you what, they would do anything for you, and vice versa. So Community Sadness, Noir Days, Blind Velvet, and Flight Jacket. It's $5 to enter. It's a $5 cover charge. I know I hate cover charges, but we have hired lights and sound for for Richter Lights and Sound. I mean, they're the Baber boys, and one of the guys is in Scatterguns, the bass player Curtis, and
Mhm.
then his brother TK. They're going to run lights. They're going to run sound. They do an amazing job. They're the ones that did it this past Saturday, and so we're paying them. We're renting a stage. Blue Diamond has agreed to pay for that. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, what I'm trying to get people to understand is that the $5 cover charge is 100% not going to me. It's not going to my band. It's not going to Flight J. We're interested in paying the people that are working behind the scenes, the lights, the sounds, the bartenders, the guys that are, you know, taking the money at the door, that are checking IDs. I want to pay the other bands. We're not taking any money. Or we may sell the CD and we may do all that stuff, but we're not taking any money from this show. Anything that we get or anything that comes through the door is going to other bands, people behind the scenes. So, you know, I am against cover charges, but we are trying to pay all of these people and make it worth their time because they're working hard to put this thing on, and so on. So June 18th, show starts at 7 o'clock, and $5 to get in. We're going to be there'll be a merch stand for all 4 bands. Our band Flight Jacket will have, you know, t-shirts, koozies. The Dadvice CD will be there with an album exclusive sticker. Get there early, man. I'm telling you, if you guys have never eaten at Blue Diamond, their Carolina mustard wings are about as good as it gets. So get there early, get food, get in there and get you something to drink, and be ready for a show that, you know, I can't even really classify it as a punk show because I mean, there's so many different bands. The diversity is really, really awesome. And I am so looking forward to it. Again, when you don't know how many more shows you got in your elder age, man, you gotta freaking go for it. And so we are absolutely going for it. We have been advertising everywhere. We have been doing everything we can to make sure that it is a really awesome show and experience for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things also, you know, I don't know how much you follow with like all this crazy stuff that goes on in the world today, but you know, the way things are looking and the way that things are being told, like, you know, we in this day and age, we never know like if things are going to revert back to 2020 style and where shows go away again. So I recommend anybody that, you know, is free to make out as many shows as you can, including this one June 18th at the Blue Diamond. You know, when I see something like this, I don't see a $5 cover at the door. I just see a $5 ticket.
Yep.
That's the way I look at it.
Four bands for $5. You're going to get 4 hours worth of entertainment for $5. You literally could not possibly get that anywhere else.
And I like the fact that it starts at 7 because people like me have to go to bed early. So I like that,
Well, I tried to get our band to play first, but we were told that if it's our album release, we got to close it down. So,
oh, don't even get me started with that. I was so mad at that when we were all at Forum for the Scattergun show, and then they played second.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait, y'all are the headliners. Why are y'all playing second?
Oh, when there's always it's so funny because in the old days everybody wanted a headline, like, oh, I want to be the headliner, I want to be the last act, I want to, I want that or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, I'd much rather play it at 7 o'clock and have my stuff back at the hotel or wherever we're at. I'd rather go ahead and move that stuff on out, and that way I can come back in and talk to everybody and hang out for the rest of the night.
See, that's why if we're going to travel shows, it's like, oh, hey, well, like you go see these bands and it's like, are you excited this band's finally made it to headline status? I'm like, no, not really, because that means I have to stay for all these other bands. And, if I'm going to a show in St. Louis, like the band I want to see is the opener, I can see them and, head on back on the road, versus if it's the band I want to see the headliner. And it's like, well, okay, this is going to be a long drive back.
Sure.
But yeah, like I said, definitely your listeners, make sure you check it out June 18th at the Blue Diamond. Pick up Dadvice June 17th, available on all streaming platforms. If you want a physical copy, make sure you're there June 18th. Make sure you see this event on Facebook. You share it to get entered into that drawing for the canvas. One other thing I want to touch with before I let you go here is you told me you're a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, man, huge wrestling fan. Went to the Show Me Center as a kid, and this would have been in 90 or 91, somewhere around there. Saw Bret Hart, who was for all as big as Hogan was in the 80s. I mean, Bret Hart was my first favorite wrestler. Everybody kind of has their first favorite wrestler. Mm-hmm. The Hitman was mine, I know this is controversial, I know it, but for a lot of people don't like WrestleMania 12 in the main event, but man, I absolutely love the WrestleMania 12 main event. I'll never forget going to Stories Marketplace here in Sikeston and buying the WWE magazine the week after and reading about the match. Because in those days, when the match would happen on pay-per-view, it was like, you really couldn't see it until it came out on VHS, and that may be 3 months.
Exactly.
So you read about it, you read every single thing. Like I knew every move that happened in that match before I even watched it, and then of course you move into the Attitude Era with DX and Austin and all that stuff. But my all-time favorite, again, your first favorite wrestler is not always your favorite wrestler, but my favorite wrestler is the Undertaker, man. I've got about a 9-inch tattoo of the Undertaker on my left leg that was done by John Thurman, man. And
I love Johnny Thurman.
Yep. He's done I've got 5 tattoos from Johnny, and they're all wrestling tattoos. And so, but the Undertaker's my guy, man. He's been someone that has, in my opinion, has carried himself in a professional way. You want to talk about somebody that's got a working gimmick and a shoot gimmick and a personal life and all that type of stuff. I mean, it's just kind of it's been something that I've really looked up to, but wrestling's been a huge part of my life, man. It really has. I truly enjoy it. I don't want to watch the real stuff. I want it scripted. I want it fake. I want it given to me. I know I want 45 minutes for my main event. I've never watched the UFC stuff. I was thrilled when our fake wrestler won their championship. That's all I can say.
Exactly.
God, that's going to be, I mean, you want to talk about controversial. I may need to hide after saying that, but no, it's all in good fun. It's all in jest here. That I just, it's been an escape for me. There are many things that I've often said that you take as a child into your adulthood. I feel like all adults have one, maybe 2 things that from their childhood they can't let go, and wrestling is mine, man. I love the theatrics of it. I love the athleticism. I love the pageantry. And now that I'm in my mid to late 30s, I love the nostalgia of going back to watch it, so it's always held a real special place in my life. And so I truly do enjoy wrestling. I love it. It's my favorite thing.
A lot of people think that the way that I am, like, it's just something like I developed over the years. And I was like, no, I was kind of just like Lady Gaga said, born this way. But like my first favorite wrestler was Vader.
Nice.
And, growing up in the South, we didn't really have much WWF. We had NWA and WCW. So like as a kid, like I was naturally a heel fan. So
Oh
like
yeah.
I was big on Flair, I was big on Terry Funk, big on Cactus Jack.
Yeah.
And then, when I did get to WWF, like, I'm also a big Undertaker fan. Like it's probably one of my prized possessions is on my wall. I have a photo of me, Undertaker, and Kane.
Nice. It's as good as it gets.
Yeah,
I've
he
got
was.
I'll have to send you this after the recording here, but when Foley was in Cape
Mhm.
in January, I got pulled up on stage because one of my tattoos is the Foley logo. So
Nice.
yeah, so I've got he used his one F-bomb of the show on me to tell me to get the F off his stage.
Nice.
So yeah,
Yeah, I almost went to that show, but I had seen it once before, and
sure.
it's one of those things. It's like you said, like your time, and plus the fact that I was pretty cheap, so I didn't want
Yeah,
to come out that much for a ticket. Same reason I didn't go see Andrew Dice Clay there. Like I
sure.
really wanted to, but I didn't want to pay that $75 a ticket. Do you follow
Sure.
the modern stuff?
Not much. Now I did sorry, I did just watch this AEW pay-per-view. I really like their product. It reminds me of a blend of like the modern style wrestler with like the early to mid 2000s WWE, WWF, WWE at that point. And so yeah, so I mean I do follow AEW. That's the pay-per-views I've watched. I've kind of canceled my Peacock subscription for now. But yeah, just the network became a disaster on Peacock. I watched it religiously when it was just the network. And so I am interested to see this Cody and Seth Rollins Hell in a Cell match that just happened. It's gotten rave reviews. I'm excited about watching that. I do watch WrestleMania every year, and I do watch the Royal Rumble every year. In terms of WWE, but I would say in the past year, I probably watched just as many AEW pay per views as I have WWE. I do not watch SmackDown or Raw anymore. It's just too much of a time commitment, and it's just
Right.
it's not there for me.
Are you going to go check out AEW next week?
I am not, and I'm not going to watch WWE. I think it's this weekend. It's there in Cape. I don't have tickets to that as either. So,
yeah, I'm not. I fell out a few years ago with the WWE. I got really big into AEW and then the indie scene.
sure.
Would you check out any of the indie scene here in the area?
I haven't, and you and I have talked about that. I really need to come to a show. I guess I don't know. It's kind of like when you don't know about like the local punk, you just don't know.
Right.
And so I didn't even realize that it was really in existence. So yeah, I definitely need to come to a show.
Yeah, they.
I did have tickets to the Hall and Nash, the Outsiders, for the CCW. I guess that would have been in January or so, and then kind of COVID hit our household, and we ended up having to sell the tickets. But yeah, so yeah, I had tickets to a show, just still haven't made it.
Yeah, we did one in a Sykeston.
Yes, and I saw Abyss that night. It was a Halloween hardcore. I bought him a Sam Adams Oktoberfest. I first of all, in Sykeston, we just don't have many 6'8" guys walking around. And so this monster comes in to Applebee's, and I'm there with my friend. I said, that is 100% that's Abyss. And first of all, it's just a 6'8" monster just comes walking into Applebee's. You know that it's not just a local. So I didn't want to bother him. So I asked the bartender, I just said, hey, would you mind going over there and asking him what he's drinking? If it is an alcoholic beverage, I would like to purchase him one. She came back. She said, it's a Sam Adams Oktoberfest. I said, please send him one on my tab. A moment later, he held his glass in the air and kind of tipped it towards me. I waved, and that was that. I didn't want to bother him, but I did want to buy him a drink.
He is one of the nicest people I've ever dealt with.
That's awesome.
And super cool. Yeah, honestly, it's one of the things with our time at CCW was, we always wanted to go back to Sykeston. Like it drew pretty decent there.
Yeah.
I went down and seen Thurman, and I took one of the wrestlers there because they were a sponsor of one of the shows, and we did a little meet and greet there at the tattoo shop with one of our monster heels, Roger Matthias. And it was a good turnaround. It was a good time, and all that. So we want to get back down there, but we just need to we had a little issue with the building as far as like them getting back with us as far as like finalizing things and stuff like that. The Armory was not very, that's why we ended up taking a lot of the shows to Charleston.
Sure.
So with that being said, Eric, I want to thank you for taking your time out of the day to come out here and do this. I know we're doing this kind of late at night, and I know we were supposed to do this a couple of weeks ago, but life got super crazy, which will be covered in a whole other episode here coming up. But sure. With that being said, where can everybody find out and follow you and Flight Jacket?
So yeah, just Flight Jacket Band on Facebook. That's kind of our hub. It does post to Instagram, but we don't post much there on Twitter. I don't have any social media that I ever really post from other than Facebook. I mean, just Eric Voorhees there. I'm not a, I'm on Twitter, but I really just use it as an information device. Flight Jacket, we're on Facebook, man. Follow us there. Just come on down on the 18th and check us out, man. I really hope you guys will show up, and I hope you guys will enjoy it.
All right. Well, like I said, thanks for taking your time out for doing this with us today. Like you said, Dadvice, June 17th, all streaming sites, Apple, Spotify, all your, wherever you get music at. I'm sure if it's on some crazy site that you don't normally, you can't find it on there, just reach out to either Eric or the band. I'm sure they can guide you in the way to find it. June 18th, Blue Diamond. Make sure you're there for the EP release. $5 tickets to get in. Doors are at 7. Exclusive way to get a hard copy if you're one of the fellows or ladies or however you want to be to get your hard copy, 1 of 50. So it's going to be a collector's item when Flight Jacket blows up and they're selling out the amphitheater in St. Louis. You're going to be like, hey, I'm glad I got that first EP. I got it signed. I picked it up. I only spent $5, and now it's a collector's item. I'm going to be able to retire off of it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for having me on, man. It's been cool talking with you. Just all the topics have just been great, man. It's right in my wheelhouse of things that I enjoy and things that I like to talk about. I hope I put everybody over that I've talked about, man, because everybody that I've mentioned today has really been a huge help in helping me play some shows and getting me back in the scene, which is what I really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful to my wife for allowing me to do this stuff. I mean, because man, it is a undertaking as best I can put it. So thank you for having me on, man. And I certainly appreciate everything that you're doing in the local scene. And I hope to see you soon, man.
All right, man. Yeah, most definitely. And I want to thank all of you all for listening to this episode. Make sure that you go into the back catalog if you've missed any episodes. We're on every podcast platform. You can also check us out. All the links are at bigleesworld.com. If you want to pick up some merch, you can always go to bigleesworld.com. Pick up some merch as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Big Lee's World. Make sure you find us, follow us, share us, all that great jazz. Any questions, comments, or concerns, shoot us an email at bigleesworld@gmail.com. Like I said, once again, thanks to Eric. Make sure to go support Flight Jacket. Great band. They're killing the scene out there. And like I said, make sure you go support them. Thanks for taking the time out of your day. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the love and support. And as always, 2 scoops of whoop. Whoop, whoop.